Hi, welcome in. My name is Rosanna. I'm a content creator and healthy productivity fanatic. And as you might hear, the project manager fell from the intro. I'm gonna have to get used to not saying that. But today we're gonna talk about my Notion 2025. This has been an anticipated video. So many of you guys have been asking me when I'm gonna release my 2025 tour, if I'm gonna make a 2025 template. And this video is here to answer it all for you. I'm gonna show you around my 2025 setup. There is a template. It is linked in the description box down below on my shop. Let's actually dive into Notion so I can show you around my 2025 setup. So welcome to my home hub. As you can see, I kind of changed color schemes. I have been in my warm color brown aesthetic era, so we went for beige. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, so if you get this template, feel free to change it around to like match your aesthetic, but I really wanted to go for something that was like feeling homey and nice. My home hub actually has a different layout than my previous setup. For the entire year while using my 2024 setup, I took notes of things that I liked and I didn't like, and I kind of wanted to change in my 2025 setup. And I think my main focus for this year was make things cleaner, if that makes any sense. Because in my previous setup, we obviously had a lot of database links, but not all the databases and not all the pages were stored in the same place. So sometimes it was kind of hard to upkeep with my Notion. And I wanted to definitely improve on that for the 2025 setup. So we still have a home dashboard, and my home dashboard is meant to be the most used page in my Notion. This is going to be the place that I will see every single day, that I will use as my main hub in my Notion setup. As you can see, you'll have a menu at the top, and this menu will show up on every single page. So it will allow me to navigate through my Notion pages and basically always return to either page that I need at that moment. Then on the left-hand side, we have my clock. It's my good old trusty clock widget. I just love it too much. The funny thing is I never actually look at the time there, but it just gives it that home dashboard feel, and therefore I always add it to every single one of my home dashboards. Then I have my pinned pages, which if you get my template, this would be empty because it links to two external pages that are not living within this Notion setup, which is my website and my Notion templates collection page, where I have all my Notion templates. Obviously, as you can imagine, those are pages that I visit quite often, but I didn't want them living in this setup because they are both published pages with things that, are accessible on the web. And I didn't want that to be available within my Notion setup and the risk of accidentally leaking things or anything. And then you can see the foundations. And as you might see compared to my previous setup, if you haven't seen that tour, by the way, it is on my channel. It's my most watched video ever. I changed my foundations. Whereas before in my foundations, I had my core databases. I still have them, but I made it way more organized than in my previous setup. So I'm going to walk you through what the core pages and the core databases mean. I'm just going to explain the home dashboard, and then we're going to actually hop into the core databases, because by walking through the core databases, I'm going to actually walk you through all the building blocks of my Notion 2025 setup. Then below that, I just have a pretty picture because I needed something to fill the space, and that picture really appealed to me. So sometimes you just have to add things to your Notion as well that just make it look pretty. Then on the right-hand side of the page, it's actually separated into different columns. You'll see everything that allows me to stay on top of my life. That's why I also wrote "Stay on Top" as the title. The first one is my task block, which contains my today view, which is everything that I need today with the status and the life area, and then everything that I need to do this week, which also allows me a quick weekly overview. I at first didn't have a weekly overview in my 2024 setup, and what I noticed myself was constantly having to go back and forth because it just happens so often that I want to move tasks around in my week, that I want to add tasks for next week. So this way I can just immediately monitor my tasks from today and in the future from the main part of my home dashboard. Then over here, we have my overdue tasks. So every single time that I have something that has a due date from before, but I haven't completed it, so the status is not done, it will show up in my overdue, and this allows me to very quickly, as I start my day, see anything that's overdue and reschedule it either on my today or in my week view, basically. Then I have a list which says deadline approaching. These are all the things that have a deadline coming up, I believe in the coming 2 weeks, which means that I have to make sure that, as you can see, nothing of this has started. So a lot of my work next week will be focused on reaching deadlines, and that also kind of gives me a little bit of insight on, am I working on their pressure or am I actually really relaxed? A week ago, this was fully empty. So then I knew that there wasn't much pressure. Now I know that I actually have to, really stay on top of things. Then I have a little package tracker, and this one just shows things that will be arriving this week. Actually, this one got delivered today, so I can tick it off and then it will get removed from there. So the package tracker is actually part of my Notion 2025 setup, and on your home dashboard, you can see anything arriving this week, but on the actual package tracker page, like the little block on the page, which I will show you later, you can actually just list all the packages, things you've ordered. And this is specifically useful if you're a person who tends to order things with really long delivery time, so you don't have to like keep in mind of when it's gonna get delivered and stuff like that. It's just kind of like a way of, you know, taking as much information out of your brain and putting it to paper. Then I have my upcoming birthdays, which I actually made a birthday calendar in my Notion setup this time around. That way I added all my friends with their birthday, and I can actually see them when they're upcoming, because one of the things I would really like to do this year is not forget my friends' birthdays, because I have a habit of doing that and I always feel really terrible about it. So I made a little birthday calendar. Then I have a quick button to log a day, which is basically just adding a journal page to my journal and then being able to rate my day, do my habits, all of those things. So clicking this button will actually open up a page. I can just click that so then you can see what it looks like. I can quickly apply one of the templates based on how I was feeling today. So let's say that I'm having a really good day. I can apply it and it will automatically apply my template so that I can do my habit tracking. I can, you know, list how I was feeling. I can list what I was doing. I can create a happy moment, which is actually linked to my happy moments database. And I can write why I was feeling like that today. And this, I try to do this every single day. At the end of the day, I write a little journal entry. It doesn't take a lot of time. As you can see, it's not a very extensive journal, but I'll show you later how I'm kind of like using everything that I'm putting in here to then reflect on my goals and everything. You might have already seen this in my goals video. If you've not seen my goals video, I'll make sure to link it up in the cards and the description box down below. I might also brush over my goals dashboard a little bit in this video, considering I've already done the full in-depth video on, you know, how that is set up and what my goals are for this year. So I'm basically just going to walk you through the layout. But I really like having that quick button over here on my dashboard. It just allows me to quickly log the day at the end of the day. Then I have my notebooks, which just, if I click on these, it will immediately take me to the respective notebooks. I'll show you where you end up later, but just know that these are just clickable images that, you know, will take you actually to the notebook. And then I have a little currently reading section, which takes from my library page, and it shows the books that I'm currently reading, allowing me to quickly update it if I actually made progress in one of the books. And then the last part of this entire dashboard is my project and campaigns calendar. So you will see this when we walk through my actual core databases. But one thing that I really wanted to improve compared to last year is I had a lot of complicated databases last year. And this time around, I was like, I want most of my databases, let's say 90%, to be really simple and straightforward. And then I want one database that I jokingly call my nightmare database at this point, which is where everything comes together, like where my goals and my tasks and everything kind of just connects to each other. Because instead of trying to connect everything to each other, creating this like really beautiful circle connection of databases, which in the end made me never use it because it was too complicated, I really like the idea of having one single place where everything connects. And I decided that, jokingly, even though I'm no longer a project manager, that should be my project database. Something that I really appreciate about this is that because everything comes together in my project database, I can also fully display it in a calendar overview. So that also allows me to keep on top of whether I'm not doing too many things at the same time. So as you can see, they all have like little different icons which tell you what kind of project it is. So I have a project related to my house. I have a project that is like a personal project. Then I have this little money icon, which means that it's a sponsorship campaign that I'm running right now. And then I have a little suitcase, which is like business related projects. I also have trips. So if I quickly go in here, I know that I'm going to London with my partner in March. Then you have like a little flight icon. These are all projects. They all live in the same database. So as you can imagine, the properties amount in this database can be a little bit overwhelming, but I'll walk you through it. Don't worry. But basically the idea is by adding it all as projects, but still giving them like a little differentiator, I can keep on top of not doing like multiple campaigns at the same time, or not doing multiple home renovations, or just in general, not doing too many projects at the same time. As you can see, I'm all running like sometimes running 4 or 5 projects adjacent to each other, which can definitely be overwhelming. So having everything in one singular overview for me personally is a major plus. I will show you the project page later as well, but considering every single project type has a different template and a different page, I'll get to that in a little bit because otherwise I feel like we're immediately going into all the depths of my Notion template. But let's actually start with the core databases. So welcome to the list of core databases. These are all the building blocks that are making up my entire Notion template. And it's quite a list. It's not an extremely difficult list, so I'm just going to walk you through like the basic philosophy of every single database in here. But it's important to understand that these are kind of like your Lego blocks or your building blocks. They build up the foundation of my Notion template, and then every single page that you see is pulling information from these databases. And that's why a big change that I wanted to make compared to last year or earlier years of Notion templates that I've done is I sometimes spread out my databases. So like some databases live in as a core database, and then some databases are just like on one singular page. This time around, I put everything in here, and I also started my template with thinking about my database structure and like thinking about what do I want to put in my Notion? Does it need its own database? And what do I want to put where? And then from there, it actually made building the rest of the template pretty easy because I'd already thought out the structure of my template. So we start with what I said, the project database, which is honestly the worst database in the entire setup. It's kind of jokingly saying the worst database because it's not actually that bad. I've seen way more terrible Notion databases, but it just contains like a lot of different properties. So obviously you have your short description, that's just your title. Then the type of project is like that personal project, business project, a trip, a household project, or in my case, also sponsored campaigns. You can add different types of projects here and give them their own template so that every single time you add something that, you know, if you own your own business and you have different types of projects, you can just add them in here as well. Then you have the dates, which includes the start and end date, which will automatically also create a duration and a countdown, which are properties that you'll be able to see on its own card. There's a rating, which you probably won't use for every single thing, but I like to rate my trips that I do. And you could also rate maybe like collaborations or sponsored campaigns or stuff like that. Then there are a couple of properties that are mostly related to trips. So you have countries, cities, and locations. Those are all other databases that you are linking to. And basically, those are only relevant if you're planning a trip, I would say. Then there's the related tasks property. So you can actually link a bunch of tasks to a project. You have related notes. And then there is related content, which again, in my case, is very specific for when things are like sponsored things. Then there's related documents. You could just upload documents if it's relevant. Then there's a campaign status, which is again, only relevant if you're doing a campaign. So in most, you'll see NVT, which actually I need to change because that's a Dutch abbreviation. I just realized this as I'm filming it. It means niet van toepassing, which I think actually in English is NA, non-applicable. I just realized without thinking about it, added a status in here that's Dutch. This is for being bilingual, guys. It's great. Then we have, so I would say like the campaign type or the campaign status, campaign type, and who is working on it are all things that are basically related to my campaigns. The sponsorships as well. It's a separate sponsor database. Then I have a column for money and different currency, which is basically, again, related to campaigns. And then lastly, I have a column which I know is behind my camera, but it is the related to goal one. I can quickly drag that over so it's like a bit more over here. But basically, I can relate a project to a specific goal. This is also something that I showed off in my goals video. So if you're interested, feel free to check out how certain projects for me are related to actually reaching my goals. But that is my entire projects database. So as you can see, the biggest downside of this is that you have properties that are just only relevant for one type of project. This is something I've been requesting for like the past 3 years, and I think would genuinely level up Notion like so incredibly much. But you know how you have a template, right? Like you can set up a template for specific types of pages in your databases. I want properties to be template dependent. Like if I apply the new trip template, I want to automatically make sure that on the card, the duration, the countdown, the rating and stuff are visible. However, if I am planning a campaign, I want all the other ones to show up because you can actually hide properties in views anyways. So if you can already hide them, why can we not make that hiding template dependent? That to me would be, I think, one of my major problem solvers in Notion, or being able to show multiple databases in one calendar view. Like either option is fine, but just not having to put it all in one database would be wonderful. But let me know in the comments down below if you relate to this or if you think these are like good requests. Okay, then going back to my core databases, we have the task database, which is very simple. It's a task database. It will have your task name, your status, your life area, your doing date, your due date. So these are 2 different dates. Then your project database, whether it's actually related to a project, when it was created, and if there is any related content. So again, that's very relevant for me because I create a lot of content. But as you can see, that task database is so much cleaner than it was last year because then I had so many linked properties. I also tried to kind of separate them or like categorize them or group them a little bit in this overview so that databases that have really strong dependencies or relations are kind of grouped together. So the next group is basically anything for my business. So we have my content database that includes everything, all the videos I'm producing, all the content I'm making, my entire content planning, including my streams and everything. And then I have my business growth database. To be honest, I added this with a vision, but I haven't really filled it yet because I'm kind of struggling to see if I actually need it. But the idea was to be able to keep track of my growth on different platforms. So like every single time we reach a certain follower milestone or subscriber milestone, add it to this database. But I'm more and more thinking, do I actually need this? Because all the analytics and available websites already exist. The only difference would be that it would all be in my Notion instead of me having to look it up on different pages. But I still am figuring out the added value of this. So I haven't really put anything in there, but it does exist already. Then I have my business costs, which is mostly like a budget. It's mostly like a list of everything that I have to pay every month or every quarter for my business. My actual business costs live in my bookkeeping tool. That's a major difference compared to last year where I was doing all my bookkeeping in Notion, but as my business has been evolving, I needed to get something that was a bit more professional. And also like, I was being made sure by an actual bookkeeper that I'm not making any mistakes. So I no longer do my finances in my Notion. Then I have my income forecast, which is something that I keep in my Notion. It's basically like a little table where I can add all the things that I am getting paid for or like that I'm, earning in a month. Because obviously in a bookkeeping tool, you only add it as soon as you've actually been paid, which for anyone who owns their own business, you will probably know this challenge of sometimes you do work, but you don't get paid until like 2 or 3 months later. And this is specifically in working with like a management who is kind of like the party in between me and a sponsor. It means that I have to invoice my management, but I can only do that when they've invoiced the customer, which basically means that there's like this really long process of actually getting paid, which means that sometimes it can be really hard to stay on top of my finances. So therefore we have the income forecast. The reason I'm not really showing any of these databases is because actually seeing the database itself isn't really useful. The most useful you're going to see is actually on the pages that I've created for them. I just wanted to explain what the vision is behind the database. Then I have my people database, and I would like to share that one with you because it's a bit different to some of the others. Obviously, we have the table view, which is just, everything. But then this people database, quote unquote, is where I put everyone that is a person and then link it to relevant other things in my Notion. So we have my musicians, which are obviously linked to concerts and festivals. Then I have my writers, which are actually linked to books that I'm reading. Then I have my sponsors, which are obviously sponsors. That's just, it's in the name literally. And then I have my birthday calendar, which I'm not going to click on because it contains information that's like private. That's my friends and I don't want to expose their birthdays, but basically my birthday calendar is all of my friends and then their birthday, but everything lives in the same database, which means that if you go to the table tab, again, you might actually see a lot of different properties because you'll see the artist name, the type of contact, the, where I've seen them on a concert or a festival, the date that I've seen them, their date of birth, related books, related campaigns. So this is, again, it's a bit of a weird database, but I still like the idea of having all the people in one database because it's just easier for my brain to almost see my Notion. And this is not to objectify people, but it's just easier to see different objects in my Notion and figure out in which database, something belongs, like a piece of information, basically. So I know that's very much database thinking. And I know some of you might giggle about the way that I approach this, but it just makes sense in my brain. It helps me organize my information. Then I have my notes database, which is literally just a database where I can store my notes and give them some properties so I can sort them more easily. Then I have my goals database, which I delve into in much depth in my goals video together with my milestones and my habits and my journal and my happy moments. I will show you the entire dashboard that comes out of this, but if you're interested in all the properties in my goals and milestone, I highly recommend watching the goals video because I just explain it so much more in depth than I could ever do in this specific video. Then I have my concerts and festivals, which is a database that has existed for the past 3 iterations of my Notion templates, just because I love going to live music. So I think this is just something that is really important to me. Then my countries, cities, and location database, like I said, they're very much linked to the trips, where I can set up countries, cities, and locations linked up to a trip. I actually moved all the data from my original databases into these new databases, because that's also a massive change I made compared to last year. Last year, I actually took all my databases and put them in a new overlay. Like, I just changed the visuals of my Notion. Whereas this year, I started completely clean. I left all my old databases and I only took all the data that was really relevant for me to still have, which is like the history of my trips, the history of my concerts, the history of my books read. But like task database, I left everything behind. Project database, I left everything behind. Content database, I only moved everything starting from January 1st and onwards, meaning that anything from 2024 and prior is in my old database. I just felt like I needed to start with a clean slate to make sure that I could finally get rid of so many legacy properties and stuff that I kind of had deleted but still have living in the database, you know? Then I have my library, which is where my books live. Then I have my notes and quotes, which is all the notes and quotes that I make for books, and they're linked to the library. Then I have my genres, which is simply just a database where I can link all the books that I'm reading from a specific genre to that genre. Then I have my yearly archive, which allows me, I'll show you that on the actual library page, but having a yearly archive allows me to link books to a specific year. And then it allows me to track how many pages I've read in that year, etc., etc. And then I have kind of like the last part, which is, you'll see that in my household dashboard. I have my wish list database, which is just where I can add anything that I might want to buy. I have my income database, which is not related to my business, but just as a private person. I have my expense database for me as a private person. I have my personal budget, which is basically just how much money I budget for different areas of my life, so that in the end of the year, I can see if I stayed within budget or went over. And then I have my package database, which again, I've already talked about. It contains my package list and when I expect them to arrive, etc. So now that you understand all the building blocks and the actual home dashboard, there is one more kind of core part that I think I should explain, and that's the core pages. I wanted this time around to make sure that all the pages that I have are also technically living in one page, and I can refer or link to them in other places. So I have my core pages, which are the pages that you'll see in like the top menu bar. I have productivity, projects, business, purpose, knowledge, hobbies, and household. Again, those are exactly the pages that you'll see at my home hub in this bar at the top. So productivity, project, business, purpose, hobbies, knowledge, and households. So now that we have those covered, you have subpages. And this is kind of I think the most important change that I made also compared to last year is before these subpages, like the library, would just be living within this page. But sometimes that made it so incredibly hard for me to keep up with my templates or keep up with my Notion if I wanted to make like a visual change or if I wanted to restructure certain things, because I had pages living in pages. So as soon as I moved one page, all of a sudden I had by accident moved 5 pages. And I just wanted to make sure that that no longer happened. So these are all the subpages that exist. I have a library page, a music page, a trips page, a financial dashboard, a campaign dashboard, which is shared with my management. If you get my template, this one doesn't exist for you because it's not relevant. I have a Pack Legacy dashboard, which also won't exist for you because it's not relevant. And I have an income forecast for my business. I'm not sure I might include this page. I haven't fully decided for the template yet. And then I have a page that I only use on my phone, which is where I actually keep up with my tasks. I have done a video about it before, but I can talk you through how I use my current setup on my phone, because right now I'm only managing my tasks on my phone. It's just a very simple page. It's literally a 1-column page with a button at the top to add a new task, my tasks for today, for tomorrow, for the next 7 days, and the next 30 days. And this will just allow me to add quick tasks, to change statuses of my tasks, stuff like that. And basically, this is all that I'm doing on my phone right now. I do not enjoy Notion on phone, so I only use it because I have so much task management to do on the go. I realized I might eventually also add a notes page and stuff to here, but I don't think I'll do that for the template because you can do that quite easily yourself by just copy and pasting this page and literally just adding a singular column with your notes database and bam, you're done. That's how I've been using Notion on my phone, and it works pretty well, I would say. So now that you understand the entire structure and you understand the home dashboard and all the building blocks, let's actually take a look at the other pages. So my productivity page, as it suggests, focuses heavily on productivity and like task management and project management. So you again have my weekly overview just with a little bit more information in it. Then you have my tasks to schedule and my infamous schedule weekly recurring tasks. So if I actually go to next week and I click this, it will automatically create all the tasks that are weekly recurring for me. And I can just literally drag and drop them onto the right day. So I just did that. The to schedule list is empty. I actually talk about my weekly recurring task and like why I have a button for it in my Notion's button video. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. I also tell you how to set up this button in that video. It's like a whole tutorial on how Notion buttons and use cases, and it also includes this one. But I really like to do this to just be able to schedule my tasks every single week. There is a whole thought process behind it, which I explained in the other video, but I also had it in my 2024 setup. I loved it, so I just kept it. You can also see my overdue tasks show up over here again. The deadline approaching tasks show up over here. Right now, you can see that all of them already have a doing date, so I've scheduled everything. But sometimes if there's a deadline approaching and it doesn't have a doing date, I can immediately drag it onto my planner over here. I use these in my weekly reviews where I basically just sit down and plan my week ahead. Then I also have my backlog, which is all tasks without a doing date. So there are certain things that, you know, don't have a project database. They're just singular things that I need to do at one point. But some of them are also part of projects. So as you can see, I currently have 3 projects that have backlog tasks. So these are all things that I know I'm going to do. They're like planned out in the project page, but I haven't assigned them a doing date. So I don't know when I'm going to do them. This is also if I do a project and certain things have a deadline, how I would like go about it. I would make the project, I would schedule all the tasks that are related to that. And then all the tasks that have a deadline, I would give them a deadline, and then they would show up here as soon as the deadline is approaching and I can actually schedule them. And that way I don't lose sight of certain things, but I also don't have to keep them in my brain at all times, basically. Then over here, we have another copy of my project overview so that it just also exists on this page. I have a little fun graph that actually shows you how many tasks I've completed when. I started using this template in like the last 3 days of December last year. So you can see that I did a little bit in 2024, but it's just a fun idea to be able to keep track of how productive I've been throughout the year. And then I have a little widget at the bottom here to kind of show the progress of the year. And that is a productivity page. I mainly use this page when I'm actually doing my weekly review. Other than that, I mostly use my home dashboard for my productivity, so I don't use this one as often. But I also didn't want to have this one, for instance, like this block or my backlog or my completed task. Like I didn't want to have all of that on my home dashboard, so I still decided to go for a separate productivity page. Then my project page is similar to the productivity page, but obviously with like more leaning towards projects. This is where I would go if I start a new project. Like this is where I would go if I want to see, hey, someone reached out to me for a certain thing, or I'm working on something and I want to actually schedule it. I would go here. I would take a brief look at my calendar. I would take a brief look at like all the upcoming things so I can see my upcoming trips. I can see upcoming personal project, business project, household. This immediately gives me like different overviews of the same information. And I think this is why I really like using a core database and then kind of pulling from that, is because my brain loves seeing the same information presented in different ways because it allows me to process it in different ways. And doing that and, you know, having like all the information available to me visually in text, in like a calendar, in a list, allows my brain to take the information as it sees fit on that day, which means it heavily helps my neurospicy brain to never overlook anything. If I were to always look at the calendar view, I'd probably start missing things. Then we've arrived at my business dashboard, and this is where I work on everything related to my content. So you can see my content pipeline, which has all of my to-dos in progress and complete videos or content that I'm creating. It's not just videos, it's also short form and pictures and anything that I do basically. This pulls from the content calendar. Then I have my campaign pipeline, which is everything that I'm working on in terms of sponsorships and stuff like that. And then if you scroll down, this is a big page, but that's also okay because I work on this page a lot. We have my content backlog, which includes for every single channel, like ideas that I have or things that I still need to schedule. So for instance, for my Twitch streams, I did a big charity event in November. There's like a bunch of things that people unlocked, which I planned in here so that I don't forget that I still have to schedule them at one point. And then I can drag them from here just into the calendar if I'm actually going to do them. My content calendar, as you can see, we have the full view where you can see everything that I do in terms of content, but then you can also sort the thing on long form content. So that's like my YouTube videos, on short form content, and on just my live streams. I also use this database to pull from to actually publish my schedule every week. So that way I just have one single place where I keep everything up to date, and it will show up in my Notion calendar, which means that I can see when I have certain streams planned. It shows up in my schedule and it shows up in here in my content database, and it's all pulling from one single source of information, which makes it really easy for me to schedule and move things around, because I only have to move it in one place and it will literally update across the board for everyone. And then I also have my business projects over here. So you can quickly see that there's a couple of projects in here. If I schedule them, I might eventually add a little tab in here that also shows my business projects. For now, it's fine for them to just live here because I can quickly see, what is going on and how they relate to maybe any videos. And then lastly, at the bottom here, I have my financial section, which is like a quick button to open my bookkeeping tool. It is a quick button to open my income forecast. Then there is a full list of all of my expenses that I have. So all of the subscriptions that I have, all of the things, when I have to pay for those, etc. And then I have a link to the financial archive from previous Notion templates that I had, or previous Notion pages, basically. So my 2022, 2023, and 2024 finances. I also made an export of those to make sure that they're actually safe, because I need those for legal reasons. And that was my business page. That's how I basically manage all of my content. If you go to an actual content page, there is obviously different templates available for all the different types of content. So for a video and a live stream and short form, I have different templates that will apply. This is a video that at the time that you're watching this video should already be out. I'm currently editing this one, and there is the entire script and everything lives in this page. All the links that I need are living in this page. So it basically just allows me to keep everything that I'm working on for a video or for content in the same place. Then I have my purpose dashboard. This one is the one that you should have already seen if you've seen my goals video. This one always takes a little bit longer to load, simply because it has a lot of graphs in it. I think that is something that I also mentioned in my goals video, and I'll mention here again as well. I am using a ton of graphs, and with the template, I will actually release a list that contains all the graphs that are used throughout the template, and then you can decide which one you want to keep if you're on a Notion version free. Because if you're on free Notion, you only get one graph. It's not enough. Graphs are so amazing, but obviously they did that for a reason, to get more people to upgrade. If you're interested in upgrading to Notion Plus or Notion Premium, feel free to check out the link in my description. I do have a cheeky little affiliate link to Notion, so I would greatly appreciate it if you use that if you do end up upgrading. But unfortunately, graphs are a premium feature, which means that if you get this template, you will probably not be able to use every single one of them unless you have premium. So then you're going to have to decide which graph is the most important for you and which you want to keep and which you might want to resolve with other database solutions. My most important thing with the graphs is it's all pulling from databases that you can still use if you have the free version of Notion. So it's purely a visual thing, a visual way of representing the information in the database. This template still works without them. You don't need them to be able to use the template. It's just, I do think they add a lot of value because they allow you to see the information in a different way. But this dashboard is built up of different parts. So we have my goals part and my milestones part and my vision board. I walk you through all of this in my goals video. So again, I'm not going to dive into it too deeply. Then I have my milestones per goal and my milestones completed per month. So these are graphs. Then I have my journal, which compared to last year, I changed the headers to be colorful rather than having like the plants as headers, so I can more quickly see how I'm doing. So as you can see, pretty good, but also some not so good days, unfortunately. I have my happy moments database. This will show the happy moments from the past 2 weeks. So all the things that I really liked. Every single day I do a journal entry and I write something that made me happy. It's just like a little gratitude journal, and I really enjoy it. Then next we have the journal dashboard. So this is where you'll see a lot of graphs, because it basically pulls data from my journal and represents it in almost like statistical data that I can analyze. So it shows me all my moods. It shows me what I've done. It shows me what kind of day it was. It shows me all my habits and how I'm doing on all of those. This just very quickly allows me to see if I'm doing well and if I'm like keeping up with my habits. You don't have to view it this way though. Like you can also just go into the database and at the end of the database at the bottom, select like the percentage and still see how you're doing on that habit. So this is not the only way that you can display this information. This is just how I went about it this year. And I personally really like how it looks, but I just would like to give the disclaimer that it is a Notion premium feature. And then my pain score, this is like my pain graph, which I will just, this also takes from my habits database, and every single day I give my day a pain score. And by the end of the year, I'll be able to see how my pain progressed. As a chronically ill person, this is very important information for me. That is my purpose dashboard. And then from the purpose dashboard, we're going to go into the hobby dashboard. We're going to go into the fun. Honestly, the hobby dashboard is a really, really fun page. You can see again my upcoming like fun projects. So you can see my upcoming trips, my upcoming projects, and my upcoming live music. And then there is a couple of different things that I can show you. Basically, we can go to the library, we can go enjoy live music, or we can go and take a trip. I'm going to start with the library page because I love this page to bits. I actually ended up adding the menu bar in here as well, just so you can quickly navigate back to the hobby page. But on the side, you can see my reading goals for this year. So this is that yearly page that I referred to earlier. My reading goal this year is 10 books. So far, I have read 3, although that's not technically true because it also counts the books that you're currently reading. So I have read 1, I've completed 1, and I'm currently reading 2 more. I have read 973 pages so far, and I have completed 30% of my book goal. Again, this is not 100% accurate, but it does the job well enough. I have a quick button to my Goodreads page or my Goodreads account. Don't follow me on Goodreads. I don't use it to save books or anything. I just use it to get book covers and make sure that I assign books the correct genre. That's literally all I use Goodreads for. I do have an account, but I don't intend on using it to track my books or rate my books. That's why I have my Notion template already. I will, however, very soon be creating a video on books in Notion and like how to get like quotes and stuff from your e-reader into your Notion. So if you're interested, if you're a book person as well, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow along. Depending on when you're seeing this video, it should come out 2 weeks after this video. So if you're watching this one later than 2 weeks after the release date, there should already be a video on my channel on books and Notion and stuff like that. So make sure to go check that out. But on this page, you can see my currently reading, my next to read, my TBR, which is kind of like my TBR for this year slash, you know, the future. It started as a TBR for 2025 and then escalated because I added way more books than I will ever be able to read in a year, I think. And then I also have my tab, which holds all the books that I've already read. This looks like I never read any books. I literally only added what I started reading since, I would say 2023, end of 2023. Obviously, I've read way more books than that, but I just decided not to backtrack that far. Then I also have like a little reading dashboard. So I have a list of my quotes and notes. I do have to be honest, I'm not the best at annotating books, so I don't take a lot of notes and quotes. Also, the books that I read are mainly fictional, and I don't think that taking notes and quotes from fictional books is something that I'll do very intensely. I like the idea of sometimes being able to refer back to something. I think I'm currently also reading a productivity book, which I will definitely annotate in, and I will make sure to like add it to my Notion databases as well. But you can also see on this dashboard, you can see how much I've read per genre. You can see how many books I have on my TBR per genre. And you can see how many pages I have read per genre as well. So it's all the pages come from one genre. But basically, this is just a little way of seeing what types of books I'm reading and how they're like spread out. So let's go back to the hobby page, because now that you've seen my library, let's actually go to the live music dashboard, which is where you can see my upcoming concerts. So anything that I've scheduled and already booked tickets for, all of my past concerts, and all of the artists that I've ever seen. Yes, this is very much a flex dashboard. I absolutely made this just so that sometimes I can click in here and be like, damn, I saw all of those people live, and that is pretty freaking awesome. This is also practical, of course, for just keeping track of like when I have concerts upcoming and stuff like that. Ideally, I would love to be able to see this in my projects database as well. But again, Notion doesn't allow you to have everything in one calendar overview. And I was like, let's not make that project database even more of a monster by trying to make the live music database fit into it too, because it's always just a singular thing anyway. So I think that's going to be fine. And then the last one on my hobbies dashboard is taking trips. So it's a very similar layout to my music one. It has my upcoming trips, and then it has my past trips and all the countries that I've actually visited on here. Again, little bit of a flex dashboard. I just enjoy going in here and like seeing this and being like, oh damn, I've done all those things. It's a really nice thing to do when I'm feeling a bit lost in life or I'm feeling a bit down. This gives me the opportunity to kind of just look back and be like, you know, Ro, you're actually a really freaking lucky person that you get to live this life and that you get to do all these things. And it's just practical because, you know, I plan out my entire trip in here, but you can see, you know, like my travel information, it holds my booking number and everything. It holds all the locations that I'm going to. It holds all the things that I needed to do for that trip to like organize. It has your packing list, your documents, all kinds of stuff like that. Everything's stored in one place. And this is also pretty darn neat. If I'm actually traveling, what I usually do is I pin this specific trip page to my phone screen so that I can access everything related to that trip on the go with one tap of a button. And that's basically the entire trip dashboard. I really love this place. I love traveling, I love reading, and I love live music. So I feel like my hobby dashboard at this point is such a good reflection of who I am. I might eventually also add another one for crafting in here, but I have kind of put crafting a little bit on hold because I noticed that I was trying to do too many things at the same time and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I'll still continue to craft, but it's just not part of my template right now or part of my own Notion because I just didn't really see how I would want that right now. But of course, if you get this template, you can always add like more pictures and hobbies in here and then, you know, create your own crafting dashboard, for instance. Then my knowledge one is a very, very, very simple page because it just has a database view. And the database view is sorted into 3 different tabs. So I have my personal notebook, my business notebook, and my top desk notebook. And then I have different notes and you have pinned pages and non-pinned pages. As you can see, specifically in my business notebook, there's just a bunch of notes that I refer to a lot. For instance, my YouTube descriptions, these are just my like default descriptions that I can post under a YouTube video when I upload it. Obviously, I need that almost every single week, at least once or twice when I'm uploading videos. I store it in my knowledge dashboard or in my notes database, but I want to be able to refer to it. So I want to pin it at the top so I can very easily get all my information here. And then lastly, I have my household dashboard, which is basically anything related to just me and the things that me and my partner are doing. So we have the household projects overview. So it's just a calendar which only shows the household projects. Then I have my backlog for my household projects, which again, it's empty because I don't have anything planned. Everything's already planned in my calendar. Then I have my package tracker where you can also add like a new package and then there's different statuses. So you can just ordered or it's shipped or you paid your import tax, the delivery is scheduled and it's delivered. And that's basically it. I have the birthday calendar over here with all of the birthdays for my friends. And then I have a button that opens my financial dashboard, which if I click that, I can quickly show you what that looks like. You have a place to log all of your income. So for every month, there's a different tab and you can log your income. I have another tab to the side where you can actually log all of your expenses. And then it will also compare your budget, which is the thing that you set up in the budget database that I showed earlier. And then it will actually show your yearly expenses. So you can quickly see like self-care is budgeted at $1,800 every year and I've already spent $107. So this just allows you to very quickly see how you're doing on that. I have my little wish list here on the side. So clothes, tech, inventory, things that I want to buy are all just listed here. And then I have my actual income versus expense trackers. So you can see that in January, I've only made 42 euros so far, which is kind of a joke, obviously, because, you know, I will get my payment for my job and everything later. It's just this is the only income that I've logged so far. And as you can see, I've already spent 232. There is also a bunch of things, like a bunch of expenses that I have logged automatically. So like my housing costs, my insurance, my travel insurance, my Amazon Prime, like my subscriptions, they will create automatically every single month on the 20th. They will just get logged automatically in here. So then my costs will drastically go up because obviously my housing costs plus my rent and stuff is high. But I just created that as a recurring expense so I don't have to manually add it. I just manually add basically all the flexible expenses that I have every month. And then at the end of the year, I can offset my budget versus my spendings, and I can see like my income and my expenses. And also I have this little graph because it will basically show how your income and expenses go up and down throughout a month, or throughout the year, basically. That's the entire Notion setup. I feel like obviously every single thing that I've made, every single database has default templates, sometimes even multiple. Like obviously the project database has, you know, a different template for trips, a different template for the campaigns. Everything has different templates set up. I try to, you know, get everything set up as default as possible. If you get the templates, any of the recurring tasks and stuff obviously aren't there because they're all private to me. So for you, it might look a little bit emptier. Also in general, if you get this, everything will look empty. There's not going to be anything on your pages. You're going to have to populate that yourself. But that's the entire 2025 template. And I feel like in a way it is more extensive than the 2024 template, but because it's so much more organized and so much more structured, I also feel like it is less overwhelming. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below about this 2025 setup. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments as well. I would like to be upfront, and that is that I am not available to customize or help you customize your template. So if you do end up purchasing it, you're gonna have to go out there and yourself like research how to use Notion and how to set it up and customize it to your liking. I wish I was in a position to help people with their customization, but unfortunately my time and resources are very limited due to already having 2 jobs, running my own business, and also being a chronically ill neurospicy person. There's only so much I can do in my life. Please know that I've received a bunch of emails last year with questions whether I could help people like customize their 2024 template, and unfortunately that is not included in the purchase and also not something I plan on offering ever in the future. If there is ever any form of help that I offer, it will always be on this specific channel in the form of tutorials, in the form of helping you set it up through like more generic Notion instructions and like inspiration videos showing certain things, how I've set them up in my Notion, sharing great productivity tools with you. That's all I do on this channel. So if you're still interested in that, if that is something that you like, feel free to head over to my YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell. I have a bunch of Notion videos scheduled and planned already. I have a bunch of exciting sponsorships and collaborations coming up with other productivity tools that might interest you. And I also plan on doing much more lifestyle content on this channel, like vlogging, like taking you with me on my day-to-day life, telling you more about being a creator, and just in general, maybe like some brain rambles about what it's like to live as a neurospicy chronically ill person. So if those are things that interest you, feel free to check out my channel. And again, stick around by subscribing. And if this video was to your liking, please toss it a cheeky like. Check out the template on my shop if you're interested in purchasing it. And with all of that being said, thank you so incredibly much for watching and for all the support over the past year. This channel has been wild and I appreciate every single one of you so much. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.